So as a board member, I see my role as invigorating and leading the college. I would like to bring together members of the community that have the brightest ideas on things like sustainability, jobs of the future, technology, green jobs. Let's have some discussions about those things. And in terms of a fair assessment, you know, also the main role for the board member would be overseeing the work of the president and administration. In terms of whether this is a fair assessment or not of the board, a question came up at the last forum. They asked what 2 agenda items, things of great importance, had the incumbents put on, you know, on the table, on the agenda, and none of them could come up with any. Over a 2-year period, the incumbents had not placed an agenda item on the agenda.
Please.
Am I next?
Yep.
I think this board is amazingly cohesive and collegial. I think we work through the president, which in this case is Dr. Dobbs. I've had many discussions with him about items to go on the agenda, some of which have come through as far as the minutes, so if you want to check back, you can find out what we were talking about. So when the accreditation team that came through and checked the college said that one of the reasons for the excellence of the college is the teamwork that exists on the part of the Board of Trustees. I think, is that the language they use? This is a group that comes through and talks to everybody, and they make a real honest effort to talk to everybody. They talk to the students, they talk to the staff, they talk to the faculty. And if they come to that conclusion, that's what they're hearing. And I got a tremendous amount of satisfaction out of that, because I've always felt that it was the teamwork that goes on and the collegiality on the board. So I would just like to say I think it exists, I value it. I think we always are working on how we can do it better, and if I want something on the agenda, I will continue to call Dr. Dobbs. He may not be totally happy about that, but.
No, go ahead. Please. Sally?
Again, I'd like to point out, and I don't think that's a fair assessment, that we don't listen.
No.
I'd like to point out again that the mission of the community colleges is established by the state and by Ed Code. We are trained as board members, and we have to follow established protocols and the governance structure that keeps the focus on student learning and achievement. We listen, but we have to follow the financial, legal guidelines to make what is best for the whole college. We work as a team. We can't work as individuals. We have no say. We have to have a team effort, and that's why we work together well. We don't have legal authority as individuals. We do have public meetings. We've had forums, and we have listened to citizens, and as Kay says, we're all out in the community listening to the public. There are governance structures that we have to follow, that we hear all the stakeholders. We do not develop curriculum. That comes from the faculty. They develop the curriculum through the Curriculum Advisory Council. There's a 3-year college plan that helps the college be effective. This board has built SBCC and is working together with faculty and staff, and we lead as a thoughtful, educated team.
I'm not sure if the assessment is fair. I think there is a perception that it is not fair. And I think we have to deal with the perception, because often perceptions become reality. I think the proper role for a member of the Board of Trustees is to be a source of encouragement. You know, I understand fully that we don't develop curriculum. The faculty develops curriculum. But we can be encouraging, or we can be discouraging. I think the proper role of a trustee is to be encouraging. And I think we have to be open to public input. We have to embrace it. We may have to make decisions that a segment of the public is not supportive of. That would be the job of a board of trustees. But we always have to listen. And even if there's just the perception that you're not listening, you have to go that extra mile. Make sure that people really do understand that you're interested in hearing them.
Is it a fair assessment, Marcia?
I agree with Peter. There's a perception here, and I think that the role of the trustees are to be welcoming. All of the people here are good people, and everyone is doing their best. All of the incumbents are doing their best to serve the college in the ways that they can, and doing the best job that they can. We all should be getting along. That should not be an issue. The perception is from the public, I think, who has come to speak to the board and felt unwelcome or unlistened to. And I would hope that we could change that we could make people feel welcome at all levels of the college. I realize that the board, as they now look at it, didn't intend that. Joe commented earlier about my being part of the committee for continuing ed that recommended canceling part of summer. Actually, Joe, I recommended against it, and I came to the board and spoke as to why. The faculty for continuing ed also recommended against it, and it had to do with transparency. It had to do with a failure to have all of the facts in front of us when those original discussions were held in that committee. So it feels a little unwelcome in situations like that. I know faculty felt unwelcome when one trustee, they were here to speak, and one trustee said, I don't want to hear from faculty. Sorry. Didn't see your 15 there.
This board and the entire college process has been transparent and open throughout. Let me tell you, we have always listened to what people say from whatever segment of the college they come and from the public. People can come to our meetings. People can come to our committee meetings. We receive input. My telephone number is in the book. You can get my email address. People write to me. I'm always happy to have that. However, you have to understand when we're talking about shared governance or participatory governance that it's not just what a constituency wants. We have to respond to state legislation, the directives of the Chancellor's office, fiscal restraints, budget concerns. We can't simply say, oh yes, we hear you and we're going to do what you want. This is a tough environment educationally these days. Money's tight. We have to make it go as far as we can, and we have done a magnificent job of that. This board is the envy of all other colleges in the state, not just in its longevity, but also in its fiscal management. I have here a copy of the accreditation report, which commends the board for its openness, its concern for student learning, for leading the college. We've done a fine job, and we are open and transparent.
I think there is a perception out there that there's a problem with this board, or you wouldn't have 4 challengers to 4 positions. It just hasn't happened in the past, so maybe that kind of challenge is an eye-opener, we hope, for them. I think it's important that Board of Trustees asks good questions. It is not, I mean, that's their job. Their job is not only to pay attention and listen and to hear what people are saying, but also to ask good questions. So when they're told that, I know you were worried about cooking classes because we raised the fee for cooking classes, but don't worry, the classes are full. The logical question is, do we have the same number of classes? Do we have the same number of people taking the courses? But nothing, those questions weren't asked. I just think it's important that the trustees remember that they work for the people. They work for the voters, and the people who are hired at for the college work for the trustees and the voters too. It's very important.
I've been active statewide, especially on the issue of trustees' roles and what their roles are not. I'm one of the few presidents from this whole area, and Mr. Villegas, who's another trustee, that was president of CCCT, California Community College Trustees. There's an organization called California Community College League. They train trustees. They give us workshops. And they've written perfectly what a trustee's role should be. And I think those members should listen to this now, those incumbent types. Contribute to the board's functioning as a team. That's been said before. We're a team. You can't do it otherwise. Bring ideas and maintain an open mind. Seek and learn about and understand all interests of the community. We keep coming back to community. How far are these people spread in the community? Who do they know? What circles are they in? Promote the public good over single interest. I can tell you there's some issues there. Avoid conflicts of interest and advocate for the district in the community, state, and federal government. Now, what's a trustee not to do? It's not a paying job. You get a stipend. It's not a paying job. But they don't have offices. They don't have offices. They don't have staff support. No, we don't do that. Trustees should not use the board to focus on single interests or employee groups. Think about that. Think about that. And lastly, the board is not a platform for individual campaigns for future public office.
Okay, well, thank you very much. You've heard 3 questions now, and now we move to questions from the audience. 3 have been selected. You all received cards, I believe, earlier, and then after the first question, they were collected. Let me quickly say these are unedited, and here they come. Question number 1 from the audience. Please describe how you would view a trustee's role with regards to the superintendent president. Who works for who? And we'll begin by doing Area 1, Area 3, and Area 4. If you would, please, Sally. I'll read it again if you wish.
That's fine.
Please describe how you would view a trustee's role with regard to the superintendent president. Who works for who?
The board, one of the main jobs of the board is to hire the superintendent president. 3 years ago, Dr. Dobbs, Mr. O'Neill, and myself established the protocol that we would use in looking to hire a new president. We looked through many resumes and came down to 3 candidates. That is one of our roles, to hire the superintendent president. We had a very open interview session. The faculty and staff had forums. Everybody listened. And in the end, we were the ones that interviewed the final candidates. The superintendent president does work for the board, but the superintendent president works for the faculty and the staff. They advise her, she advises us. We listen to all of their input, and then we as a group make decisions about how things are worked and what happens at the college. But one of our main roles is to hire the superintendent president.
I don't think there's any question. The superintendent president is selected by the Board of Trustees and works for that Board of Trustees. But they work, it's more complicated than that. They work as a team. The Board of Trustees is the principal source of advisement for the president. There is a line, there's an appropriate line between being an effective advisor and micromanagement. It's a line that trustees should not cross. I will not cross it. But neither will I refrain from providing advice if I think it's necessary. And in the past 2 years, I think to some extent this board has let the president down in not being forceful, in not being effective, in providing the advice that will make that president effective in this job.
I would agree with Peter and Sally too. The role is to hire the president. The board hires the president, and the board guides the president and helps that president in being a really great president. And that's an important role that you need to do without micromanaging. And part of that role is for the board to have a deep understanding of the college and of its programs. And unfortunately, I have come to the conclusion that that doesn't always happen, because it seems that the information that's coming to the board is a fairly narrow stream of information. Now, I know they've talked about being out in the public. I know they don't feel that way about it, but that's what I'm seeing in the results. And one of the suggestions I would have is that the president could perhaps provide to the board a wider range of information. When an issue comes before the board, it's not just a single recommendation and the facts to support that recommendation, and the board says yes. It is an issue memo that says,